Thank you, Natalia, for the kind introduction. I'm really excited to be here on this key topic. As many of you know, that several large public companies are committing to net zero commitments. And this last 2 to 3 years, there have been several discussions about sustainability. And net zero pledges are not just pertaining to energy systems. We really have to rethink about our transportation systems. We really have to think about the workforce where they are working from in terms of the buildings. And we really need to think about the automation levels of each and every process so that we can decarbonize this world. And this is not going to be an easy journey. And that is why these companies are setting targets for 2050 and 2060 and so on. That means from a human resources standpoint, we almost have to begin the journey now in terms of what type of workforce do we need to achieve these goals, and also what type of workforce and reskilling we need to adapt right now to achieve these goals. In the beginning of last quarter, we conducted an interesting study. We reached out to about 50 global companies, definitely a small sample in the grand scheme of things. But we asked them a lot of questions around sustainability. And primarily, we were trying to inquire what are the primary enablers and the barriers for achieving sustainability goals that they have planned in the next 10 to 20 years. Almost across all regions, whether that is North America, EMEA, APAC, LATAM, the primary concern really came around reskilling the workforce and as well as hiring the right digital skills into the organization to achieve the goals of sustainability. And we further classified these concerns or the barriers into two categories. One is, how do I transport my existing industrial skills into the sustainable world of skills? And the other one is, how do I bring in more and more digital skills, more and more technology related skills so that new technologies can be put in place? Please keep in mind that the goals that we have to achieve with respect to decarbonization is not just using existing technology, but also we may have to build newer technologies, newer digital technologies. And when you view this through these two fronts, many companies have already started beginning, how do we better educate our industrial workforce? And there is a lot of AR, VR models that are being used, quite a bit of digital twin-like operations that are in place. For example, there is quite a bit of AR and VR-related activities, animated visualizations to install a wind turbine. These are components that will help fairly a newly skilled resource to install and maintain a wind power turbine, for example. So this is one sort of effort. And the other sort of effort that is required is the underlying technological talent or the digital talent that would require us to do automation, IoT, AI, ML, and multiple other areas. And we actually mapped about 500 MSAs across the globe to identify what are the top global hotspots that are emerging with respect to technology. Now, there exists a sizable supply-demand gap as it is, and new hotspots are emerging. Eastern Europe talent, technology talent is coming up, especially on the software side. Southeast Asia is emerging. New hotspots are coming up in India. And definitely post the pandemic, there are newer hotspots emerging, both in Canada and as well as in the United States. Latin America, countries like Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico have done exceptional investment into education. While that is all great news, the overarching message is there is still a huge supply-demand gap. About 7 million people are the gap as it stands today. And it's going to increase quite a bit in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, what can organizations do with sustainability goals and other digital transformation goals? This gap is bound to exceed more and more. And we are in this presentation, we have examined a few things that organizations may consider doing. One of the important things that organizations can consider doing is, how do I bring in more early career talent into the mix and really make them career ready? And if you look at the globe, there are large hubs like China, India, and United States coming up in terms of how much STEM graduates they have and how much engineering graduates they have. China has about, on an annual basis, graduates about 1.4 million. India is about 1.2 million. The one challenge that many of these systems bring into the picture is the readiness. And many times companies are not creating enough early career talent jobs, or do not have the right infrastructure to really mentor and bring up to speed this early career talent. And also, very interestingly, we have trends like cross-border movement that is beginning to pick up post the pandemic. A lot of talent is migrating from Africa to France and UK, and actually Switzerland and Amsterdam is also gaining a lot of talent. And talent is moving from places like China and India in smaller numbers into USA and Canada. And that has been the trend for a while now. And this type of movement have to be understood well so that you can proactively create the right level of partnership. One interesting case study that comes to my mind is post-World War II, the United States created nursing schools in Philippines so that the people who want to come to the United States from Philippines would learn nursing and then come in, because the United States sensed a key shortage of nursing population in the 1960s and the 1970s. And this type of strategic move, companies would have to take leadership and understand. For example, our analysis show that about 30 to 35% of Europe's digital transformation talent would have to come from Africa. So what type of proactive hubs that we can establish, proactive partnerships that companies can establish? And largely, barring a few companies, few tech companies and a few forward-looking companies, we have not taken the full advantage of the African ecosystem. And this is another key strategy that companies should consider as part of the sustainable goals. Now, our analysis show that there is, across the African continent, tech and tech-related talent is about 1.5 million people. And it is not all talent is absolutely corporate ready, but this is the potential talent that companies can leverage over a period of time if we do all the right things. And there are many hotspots coming up, whether it is in Rwanda, for example, where there are quite a bit of AI startups coming up. Nigeria, tech ecosystem is getting stronger. Ghana is getting stronger. And Egypt is gaining momentum. All these ecosystems have to be understood well. And the early career talent and also the late career talent there from a digital transformation need to be understood and planned well within the talent strategy of companies. And one of the interesting things that I touched upon early on is around how do you create more and more early career roles, and how do we truly build the right internships and even pre-professional experience by working with local colleges, community colleges, not just large established universities, but how do we identify smaller colleges, smaller universities, and create the right level of internships. And we don't see this happening because in some cases, I was reviewing a job description where it said it's an entry-level job, but required 3 to 4 years of experience. And that's truly not an entry-level job. Now, we have to understand, for example, within software development, how do we create a lot more web development type of entry-level jobs or Java development type of entry-level jobs, and build the hierarchy towards a distributed computing model and get into the SDE stack and the senior software engineer stack. Similarly, if you look at the cloud stack, there is a lot of cloud support associate roles or junior cloud engineer roles that can be created. One of the important things that we have to consider in the current ecosystem is the availability of various certifications. A lot of the cloud roles can be effectively performed today through 3 to 4 month certifications. And there seems to be a disconnect with respect to that regard, especially when it comes to enterprises creating these roles. Not enough entry-level roles are being created. And similarly, there is opportunities in cloud security stack. There are opportunities in QA automation, manual testing, and so on. The opportunities are there. It just requires proper re-engineering and understanding of what are the right entry-level roles, and even before that, what are the right internships and the pre-professional experience levels that we can create within the ecosystem. And when you start working backward like that, what you are doing is you are creating enough set of pipeline for companies to look into various digital transformation initiatives. Now, today, you would need to do, in order for us to achieve the sustainable goals, we would need to do a lot of automation related work or IoT related work or embedded systems work. All this would require a sustainable set of funnel that we can build proactively. Now, opportunities like this can also lift people from the streets, people from poverty. And that to me is a true sustainable goal and a noble goal, because we need not rely on conventional degrees when it comes to many of the technology stacks that exist today. And we can actually partner with multiple certification institutes and then lift the society from the bottoms up to a new age, upper middle class type of an environment. So this is a great opportunity for companies with the net zero goals that are being laid out. At the same time, we would also have to keep in mind our existing workforce. And the late stage workforce or the Gen X workforce also need reskilling or retooling. Many companies have formed a lot of partnerships and they have implemented platforms, multiple learning platforms, but the adoption in our analysis show that the adoption of such reskilling initiative is around 17 to 18% in North America. And it's about 33 to 34%, the highest in Norway, when we looked at the courses completed through many of the online programs. And this type of adoption needs to go further higher and higher. And that is really the responsibility of the enterprises to create more and more opportunities. Now, how can we move database administrators into software stack? How can we move data analysts into data scientists? How can we move business analysts into layers like citizen developers, where they can build applications through modern stack? And this type of analysis and career pathing and developing these pathways and making it available to existing workforce should be a critical responsibility of companies today. And this is not an easy job, but the ecosystem is very ripe. Today, we have multiple course providers who are providing such targeted transitions. Now, it is a question of looking at what type of workforce do I currently have, what are the digital intentions or initiatives that I need to execute, including sustainability related initiatives, and then mapping out where do we need to create capacity, where do we need to buffer up, and where do we need to create pipelines. And such transitions, once it is done, it also helps employers retain the employees, because you are sending a very important message that you deeply care about your employees and you are creating progressive paths so that you really mean that you deeply care for the employees and about their learning on an ongoing basis. And this, very few companies are attempting a systemic way in this, but we need to do a lot more in this regard. And we are quite excited about some of the reskilling propensity indices that we can create in such a scenario across various digital initiatives at Draup. Finally, in conclusion, we see that in order for companies to achieve net zero goals, we have to take a holistic talent strategy. A very successful talent strategy that needs to be built from today will help you achieve your net zero and sustainability goals. And we see this as, in summary, 4 important elements. We have to bridge the existing supply-demand gap, and that means we have to train the existing workforce in new age technologies through various reskilling paths, but also we have to find newly developing hotspots, including the new hotspots in places like Africa, India, newer developed hotspots in places like Latin America, United States, and Canada. So we have to take a holistic look at all the available talent. And one of the important things which is coming as post-pandemic is the ability to work in remote way and also ability to take advantage of the gig workforce. Now, one of the rapid accelerations of post-pandemic initiative, due to the rapid acceleration of cloud adoption, we can now be in the same agile circle, but live in any part of the world. And that gives you access to more and more talent, not just for technology talent, even for tapping other contact center type of workforce, or from a technology support type of workforce. And it gives you the ability to take advantage of being the footprint and also bringing in specialists for targeted workforce efforts, whether it is data science or developing specific AI ML models and multiple other initiatives. And we got to also, as I emphasized in the beginning, we got to have a very clear strategy on early career talent. And one of the important things that you could do is, in order to address the readiness of the early career talent, we could also implement university-like programs within the enterprise where they come in and they graduate through a 3-month program or a 6-month program and then join the business. And this strategy is being used by several companies successfully. And we see this as a very important element to win the net zero talent war. And finally, both the industrial workforce and also the corporate workforce that needs to be reskilled have to be evaluated thoroughly and needs to be brought into the newer stack, whether that is on the data stack, whether that is on the cybersecurity stack, whether that is on the software stack, and also the core engineering innovation stack that is required to enable sustainability. If we take our point of view is if we take a holistic strategy across all these 4 elements, companies can achieve their net zero goals, and we can move towards a very successful low carbon employment environment. Thank you for this opportunity and wish you all a great success in this conference.